Fort Wayne, Indiana is flat. The glaciers made sure of that. The city is close to Ohio and Michigan. There are exactly 3 buildings that could qualify as skyscrapers, but the one landmark which can be seen from almost anywhere in the city is the soft pulsation of the radio tower lights northwest of town. In a time where streaming audio has given the listener an endless flow of algorithmically curated songs, terrestrial radio seems to be teetering on the edge of obsolescence. But for me, there's something comforting about turning on the radio and hearing a person sharing a favorite song or telling a story. Radio broadcasts have an immediacy and an intimacy because they are ephemeral and geographically limited. There's a bigger focus on local topics because the range of the broadcast is local. Fort Wayne has experienced a sort of artistic renaissance in recent years. Like many cities in the Rust Belt, it was hit hard by the deindustrialization of the second half of the 20th century. However, by the 1990s, people were working to revitalize the community economically and culturally. I grew up in the 2000s and 2010s, riding in cars with parents that listened to the radio. We mostly listened to our local NPR station, 89.1 WBOI. And it's impossible to listen to that station for very long without hearing the gentle and unique voice of Julia Meek. If anyone has used the radio to its fullest cultural potential, it is Julia. She's a person who has dedicated a large part of her life to catalyzing, cataloging, and curating Fort Wayne's arts and culture scene. An artist herself, she is one of Fort Wayne's biggest proponents as a place with a unique and important story to tell, where the label local doesn't mean niche and insignificant, but can be a source of pride. An affirmation of the stories of the people next door, down the street, across town, or even of the story that you yourself have to tell. I went to interview her at the WBOI studio to ask her about her life and career. I was wondering if you had fond memories, or specific fond memories, or just general fond memories of growing up here in Fort Wayne.
You know, I do. I was born in 1950. That was a good year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask the adults of that time because there was a bit of a recession after World War II. That's why that's why God invented the Korean War, some say. But anyway, it was delightful. It was just new enough, being, and 1950 literally was sort of a gateway into modernism, and wouldn't be a decade later when Peace, Love, Woodstock was, those kind of feelings. So there was definitely, I would say, the post-WW2 vibe and the modern feel, and kids our age had it going on. It was very wonderful then as now. Fort Wayne's always been regarded as a progressive city, not too big and not too small, either like, a big small town or a small big town, however you want to look at it. And that was certainly true then. Like a lot of the world, it mirrored a lot of the world. Mass transit was great, so the buses were going crazy. People were home, let's all be Americans now, reflecting all of that. There was tons and tons of growth on the south side of Fort Wayne, East Allen counties, where I did grow up. And there was incredibly crazy, busy growth. They couldn't keep up with the schools and the churches and the public school systems as well. So it was a wonderful time. Yes. I grew up in a family that embraced music and the arts and of all sorts, and reading. My mother would later, after my father died in an accident when we were all little kids, and she would go on to be a great teacher and our teacher. So I always felt fortunate for that. She was also very art-centric, which I feel very fortunate for that. But yeah, it was a lovely environment, I have to say, and Fort Wayne was a great city.
Who would you say were some of the most important people to you growing up that helped you develop your artistic and community-minded spirit?
I hate questions like that, only because it's like
you can't name them. You can't name them.
Can't name them all. I hate to miss them. But I have to say, and again, starting with my mom. My mom was a good influence on my life. She always encouraged me to really make a difference with my art, to never be afraid of it, and also, especially, like, if you think you can do it, you can do it. You can figure it out. Now, that doesn't just mean you can think it. I think, therefore, I am doing it. But, you can figure out a way and you can do it. Mm-hmm. Yes. So she was one. So many of my teachers. Sister Columban in high school was really fantastic. Local artists, local heroes in my mind, the Cruzies. the couple. I had Don for gifted and talented art school classes when I was still in high school. That would turn me on to all the things, and it also turned me on to the downtown, to the Fort Wayne Art School way back in that day. That turned me on to all of those possibilities. I had art teachers and friends of teachers and friends that were teachers that helped me in my high school and then into college years and then beyond. Pen and ink's one of my favorite things. I am an illustrator, and I have good friends in southern Indiana that I became close with. I did a lot of history work in my early 20s and 30s, local and state history, and that brought me into close contact with historians. I found that I had a knack for doing historical drawings, especially from written records and things, and with the table, with the setup and everything, based on research and facts from pre-photography days, which is important because one of our big areas of study was the canal system as it came through Indiana. My ex and I actually founded the Canal Society of Indiana, as well as did that original research, because that's another thing you find out the more you know how it is in life then as now, or now as then maybe I should say, but you think everything's out there and you can just go find it all neatly laid out, and but then sometimes it's not there, and if you're lucky you're going to help generate it. We did that a lot with the information about exactly where the canal was and why, because it hadn't been documented, a lot of it, and a lot of it was oral history and hearsay, and we all know that that's amusing, but it can get you into trouble too. So that's how that all started. But yeah, I guess a lot of my life's been started because you think, okay, I'm going to learn about that. You're learning for yourself, but you're also always learning, I think, so you can share with others. Well, everybody knows how cool public media is, and we would always be able to get public television one way or another. But as regards the public radio, the middle 70s, we got our first public radio station here, and it was within IPFW. Remember, we had the double extension here, so Indiana University, Purdue University shared the campus. Yes. Well, I was a listener since the first day. They put the signal up. It was really quite something. It was remarkable. It was just music to our ears. After a couple of years running that way, the schools all over the United States, probably reflecting the world, money was getting a little bit tighter, and so they couldn't any longer fund it out of the general funds. They needed that money for other things, and so they let everybody know, gave them a time frame. They'd have to find another place. When they wanted to start the Save Our Station campaign, they put a call out for an artist to design a campaign posters, basically, and that's what I did. That was my connection. I started doing that. I was really shy. I didn't want to be on the air. People don't believe this, but I am shy. But at that time, it was music. We read our own news. It was almost all classical. So I started doing a classical show during drive time on Thursday afternoons. And then I took a half hour and then another half hour and put it together. I was invited to do a folk show. And so that's how Folktales was born, yeah. And then, I just have always loved it.
Folktales is an iconic show on WBOI that has been running for decades. The show features music from around the globe, organized according to a central theme. The themes run the gamut of human experience, from the folktale of beauty to the folktale of murder and mayhem. While Folktales is perhaps Julia's most well-known show, originally we met through Meet the Music, a weekly local review show produced entirely by volunteers that showcases musicians from the Northeast Indiana region. It's difficult to know exactly how many people have come through and recorded sessions at the soundstage at WBOI, but the acoustic treatment panels in the recording studio at the station bear hundreds, if not thousands, of names of local groups sharpied in so densely that they begin to blend together into one mosaic of color and movement. While the show was certainly a motivator for me and other musicians to improve our chops before being broadcast to the entire Northeast Indiana region, it's also a remarkable work of preservation, offering musicians a platform and a recording opportunity at no cost. Julia's work in preserving Fort Wayne's musical history was inspired in part by the work of musicologists Alan Lomax and Francis James Child, known for collecting and preserving the disappearing legacies of folk musicians. I asked her about these two musicologists and their influence on her work and philosophy. or live here. Would you
And-
say that's
Yes,
correct?
and Lomax and Child. I mean, they were music collectors, and they did two things. They wanted to go and get it before it was gone, and put it there where everybody could see it in a format that everybody could see it. They were looking at format and also endangered species before they got done, and that was everything to do with making music was helped, but also endangered with the introduction of recording music. And there are many people. R. Murray Schafer is another hero of mine, and he's a Canadian composer and musicologist. He attributed the biggest change, of course, acoustic, of course, in many ways, but sociologically more than you would think, just an amplification. Because before that, you could only be, your people had to come this
30
close,
people.
and
Yeah.
then the whole world could hear, and that's all fantastic. But then that's when you didn't have to make your own music and do your own thing. And with cinema, you didn't have to pay, when you didn't have to do your own stuff anymore because somebody was doing it that you could enjoy. It changes everything. Going back to post 1950s, when we were gaining momentum in becoming a consumer society rather than a producing society, telling your own stories, making your own music, writing your own world, that's it's not done as much. People do want to be entertained, and they do want to be consumers rather than to be the producers. But my goodness, it's so important. And I'll go back to survival. If you have to learn, if you didn't learn everything there was to know from the stories that you heard, you couldn't make it, and that's the same now.
Of all of your murals around the city, are there any that maybe stand out to you the most, or that you are the most proud of?
Well, it is always going to be the closest and nearest and dearest in my heart, and is the Hyde Brothers mural, which is Fort Wayne story. And that did evolve from my Mastodon, speaking of stories of one's life, but that was all part of a citywide connection when IPFW turned, was it 40, 50, or 60? Because they wanted that many Mastodons being painted to represent the history and the wonderful time, the wonderful things here. That was the first time I got such a chance to think that out. And so having the impetus already in my brain, and the love for Fort Wayne in my heart, and feeling like putting all of that out on a site of a wall of a 18 by 100 spot really motivated me then when I got to do the mural. That also made me be the first woman muralist in Fort Wayne, which it's too bad we had to wait so long to have one, but I'm glad that we did. Actually, murals were only gaining momentum again in the 21st century, so happy about that. It's been such a wonderful experience. I can't begin to tell anybody except you can see for yourself. What it might mean to you, it means to me because it came from my heart to my head to my hand, and then went right on the wall. It just poured out.
It's amazing.
Awesome. I had, it's I guess the question has to do with, you've experienced several losses in recent years, but I've never seen your outward attitude be anything other than warmth and kindness. And I was just wondering what you considered to be kind of the driving force that keeps you positive amid, the difficulties
and I get
that happen in life.
It's not easy. In 2016, I lost my husband, and he's the love of my life and my partner in so many ways, painting partner, camping, hiking partner, backpack partner. So, and then a year and a half after that, I had a stroke. There was a lot of things, a lot of people to take care of, a lot of things happening. That's okay. You have a lot of good decades and a lot of bad decades, and that would have been one of the latter. But through all of that, I'm not a Pollyanna. I am a survivalist, I would say that, but really, honestly, people will go, "Why aren't you mad?" Why? And it's because I didn't have the luxury. That's why. on either of those things. And those were two horribly bad things. I had good teachers to teach me that you learn. You make the best out of any situation. And that would have been my mom, my dad, but especially my grandmothers. That stuck with me. That is what I could share with people. You don't give in. You can't. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. A few weeks after I interviewed Julia, I went to see a show put on by the Fort Wayne Youth Theater. After the show, Julia was to be awarded the Harvey Cox Lifetime Achievement Award, an award given to an outstanding member of the Fort Wayne arts community.
So, Julia, we'd like to award you the Harvey Cox Youth Theater Lifetime Achievement Award.
The audience's admiration for Julia is evidence of the value of the work that Julia has done throughout her life. Work that she does not because of the great fame and material rewards it gives her, but because the work catalogs and strengthens an artistic and human community, and being a part of that community is its own reward.